Yep, that's me with that I haven't made a putt all day look on my face. I'm sure you've experienced that also. It's frustrating when you can't make a putt. Happiest moment of your life when you can. I played this tour for 23 years and I don't understand it yet. I tell you, when you go along and you can't make a putt, it's very frustrating. This putting game has brought down emperors, kings, presidents, right down to their knees. And when you're putting good, you can compete against myself, Arnold Palmer, Jack Nicklaus, Gary Player. It really doesn't make that much difference. You get out onto the golf course, first hole is a par 4, 400 yards long. You hit a tee shot down the middle of the fairway. Now you hit the second shot up onto the green. You 2 or you 3 putt. You figure, boy, that's really something. I've gone 400 yards in 2 shots, and it's taken me 3 more shots from 20 feet. Whose fault is that? That's your fault. Why? You've probably never had a putting lesson. You've probably had hundreds, thousands of golf lessons, but never one on putting. 2% of the 18 million golfers that we have in this country have had putting lessons. The rest has been on driving and irons and chipping and bunker play. Now, if you're into numbers, and we're in the computer era, 14% driving, 50% is putting. What are you going to do? Certainly you're going to start working on your putting a little bit more. Don't avoid that putting green. It's not a minefield. That putting green is there for one reason, for you to get the texture and the speed of those greens that you're fixing to go out and play. You want to work on technique, and naturally you want to work on your stroke. Just the other day we had a little game out here, and a couple of my buddies after we finished up said to me, Lee, do you know that you had 24 putts out there today? And I tell them, I says, well, I was kind of lucky. And they said, you know, you're a great putter. And I said, no, a great putter I'm not. I am a good putter. And they wanted to know what I attribute that to. And I said, well, I'm able to read greens. And my technique is very good. So the discussion got a little heated, and they wanted me to go down on the putting green and show them what I was doing. And I said, no, I'll tell you what I'll do. I will give you a putting seminar tomorrow. So you bring your wife, your girlfriends, your neighbors, your mother, and your father. And I will show you the techniques on the putting green. So that's exactly what we did. And we want you to share it with us. We want you to see and maybe pick up some of the tips that they picked up. And this is the way it was. To be a good putter, though, you must be able to read greens. And this is what we have on this table here, the types of grass that you're going to putt on around this country today. And let me show you what to expect when you get on this type of grass here. Now, as you can see, the first slab of grass that we have is what we call Bermuda grass. It's a 328, and it's from the Bermuda family. Now, there's a 328, there's a 419, there's a dwarf tiff, but it's still Bermuda grass. Now, this is like having roses in your backyard. You may have different types, but a rose is a rose. Now, the thing about Bermuda grass, you will find this here in the desert. You'll find it in all the southern states. You'll find it in Arizona, New Mexico, Texas, the Gulf states, and Florida. Once you get north of the Dixie line, you're not going to find this type of grass. Now, this grass has a tremendous amount of grain in it. Always remember that the grain on Bermuda grass will grow towards the setting sun. It'll go west. So if you're playing Bermuda grass, find out where west is at, because that's where the ball is going to break. As you can see, the grain on this grass is going that way. To take this ball, it's a very slow grass, you have to tilt this quite a bit to make this ball roll. Now, if you turned it around the other side, you almost have to tilt this ball down, or this grass down much more before it gets to roll, because it's going against the grain. This is what we call a Bermuda grass. Remember, the grain will always go west, so you have to respect that. This particular one that we have here is dormant Bermuda. So if you're playing a golf course with grass this color, you better get another membership, because you're going broke, believe me. You shouldn't be putting on this, believe me. This will go dormant about the first frost. What we do is we overseed, which is this grass that we have here, which is 328, except it has been overseeded with a ryegrass. They put this on, And this baby comes out in about 7 to 8 days, and you'll end up with what we call a ryegrass. Ryegrass grows straight up. That's why the ball will fishtail on you. When you hit this putt, that ball will fishtail on you a little bit. You've got to be very firm with this putt. You don't have to play nearly as much break. Now you have to really lean this to get that ball to roll off this piece of grass because it's very, very slow. Right here. This is what we call an overseed. Now, this is bent grass. This is the most common. Where are you going to find this? You're going to find it in the north. You're going to find it in the northeast. Well, you'll find some greens in Florida, in Texas, Arizona, and here in the desert with this. Bent grass is very fast. The blade is very soft. Not a lot of grain on this particular green. Watch this ball. I just barely have to tilt bent grass to get this ball to roll down. It does have a grain, but the grain is very soft. The blades of the grass are very soft, so you don't have to really play that much grain. Now, grain on bent doesn't grow towards the setting sun. Grain will follow the flow of water. It'll grow downhill. So you could have a 30-foot putt on bent grass and actually have the grain going 2 to 3 different directions. Yeah. Any questions with the grasses, Doc?
Would you mind repeating again how you determine the grain on bent grass? We all have trouble with the grain on bent grass.
Doc, as I mentioned a moment ago, the grain on bent grass will always follow the flow of water. It grows downhill. Now, you could have a 30 or 40-foot putt and the grain actually goes 2 to 3 different directions. You don't have to be concerned with that, not like Bermuda grass. Bermuda has a very, very stiff blade. Bent, that blade is very, very soft, so don't concern yourself with it. Any other questions?
Is it true that the light of the green, different colors of the light of the green
Go
makes
ahead.
a difference?
What was that?
Is it true that the light of the greens will tell you about the grain or which way the grain is going to go?
Yes, it is true. But the problem with that is you can't, if the sun is out. Yes, if you're looking at the green and you're looking out over the green and all of a sudden you see the green very glassy, then chances are you're going down grain because you're looking at the top of the blade of the grass. Now, if you walk on the other side and look back into that grain, it'll have a different color to it. It'll be dark, which means you're going against the grain. But you don't have to really be that concerned with this grass. If you're, like I said, if you're putting 328, all you have to do is find out where west is. And you know you're going to be down grain or cross grain. But bent grass, look at the contour of the green, because if you're going downhill, you're going to be with the grain. If you're going uphill, you're going to be against the grain. Yeah. I'm going to take you out on the golf course now, and I'm going to show you how to read a green. And then we'll come back and if you have any more questions, okay? Well, we're down here in a portion of the golf course where the sun is out, man. We were over in the shadow a little bit. How many times have you seen a golf professional approach the green and his head is going from the right to the back, to the left, to the front, to the left front and everything? And people in the gallery are always saying, look at him. He's looking for his neighbor or his girlfriend or his wife, or he's trying to get a few phone numbers. No, that's not true at all. I'll tell you what we're doing here is we're approaching this green and at the same time we're surveying it. We want to know which way that putt is going to go. It's easy as you're walking up that green to look, and you can see all the undulation in this green. And you're able to tell approximately which way that ball is going to go. I mean, it's not very difficult. But the problem with you is that you're riding a golf cart. And it's not by choice, actually, because a lot of the golf courses that you play today, mandatory to take a cart. So you approach the green, you hit your ball up onto the green, you jump in your cart, you drive to the back of the green, grab your putter, you come down, you fix your ball mark, hopefully, and then you mark your ball, and actually you're right on top of your putt. Now, you're probably sitting there in your living room and you're saying, hey, I'm a pretty good putter. Oh, yeah, you're a good putter. You're a good putter at home. But once you leave there, you're not a very good putter. You ever notice how a golf professional travels from week to week, never loses one stroke in putting? And it's not because he's a great putter, it's because he's able to read the green. And this is what we want to talk about in this segment. You can have a stroke like Ben Crenshaw, and if you don't know how to read a green, you're not going to make a putt. It's like driving home from your office in the evening. You know exactly how much time it's going to take you. because you know how you're going to go. If you have 10 red lights on your road, you know how fast to go to make all the red lights. If I sent you home tomorrow, a different route, you don't know how long it would take you, and you would probably get lost. Now, there's two greens that you have to think about when you play golf. One is the old greens, and two are the new greens. We're not talking about grass here. We've already talked about that. We've talked about Bermuda, we've talked about bent, and we've talked about ryegrass, which is just a Bermuda that's overseeded. This is exactly what we are standing on here. Now, I think the old greens are the most difficult ones in the world to read, and the reason for it is because they're flat. They're round greens and they're flat. Oh, they'll slope a little bit. They'll go from back to front. Maybe you'll have a little uphill putt, but it won't be much of an uphill putt. The reason that these greens are flat is because of drainage. In other words, they want them to retain water. We didn't have all the irrigation systems that we have today on the golf course, so they have to retain water. It's the hardest putt in the world to make, is a straight putt. I've always said that because you can't make a mistake on it. Now, there are some things that you can look for when you want to read a flat green. First of all, you have to look for just lakes. If there is a lake on the right or the left side, or there's valleys, or there's mountains, or you're on the East Coast, or you're on the West Coast. But if it's a permanent lake, chances are that that ball is going to break towards that lake simply because of erosion. Everything drains that way. Now, that's one of the things that you have to look for. The other thing that you want to look for is bunker placement. How many bunkers are around this green? Do you have two bunkers, one on the right, one on the left? Do you have two bunkers on the back of the screen? Now, you have to take this green, you split it in half. So if you're actually to the right of this line, chances are that putt is going to break from right to left. If you're to the left, chances are that putt will break from left to right. Now, the reason for this is because after a period of time, that golf course being there 30, 40, 50 years, that sand being blown out of that bunker actually top dresses this green, and it starts mounting up. In other words, it starts building up on that side. And if you don't believe that, the next time you have a big rainstorm on your golf course, you go out and look at it, and there'll be a river of water right down the middle of that green, and that's the reason for it. That's the only couple of things that you have to look forward to as far as reading an old green. Now, we get into the new ones. We're getting into high tech, we're getting into different equipment, we're talking about undulation, we're talking about humps and hills and valleys, you name it, they got it. Now, if you're out here in the desert, you know, people will look up at a mountain, they said, well, that ball's gonna go away from that mountain. Not necessarily so on a new golf course. And the reason for that is because that architect knows that over a period of years, erosion and water flow is going to lean that green away from that mountain. So what does he do? If the mountain is here, he takes the away mountainside of that green and he builds it up. So you could be playing in Colorado, New Mexico, Arizona, Southern California, and that putt could break towards the mountain. Same thing on the East Coast, same thing on the West Coast. So you have to be very careful. You want to walk around this putt, and you want to be able to survey it. Now, the way that I survey a putt, and you've seen me many, many times walk completely around this particular putt, 360 degrees I go. What I do is I approach the back of the ball. I look at the cup, and I split this 360 degree circle into 180. I don't read anything past this line. I look at valleys, or I look at humps on this side, I look at valleys and humps on this side. And then I determine which way that ball is going to break. That's the reason that I go all the way around. So there's just a few things that you have to remember about reading greens. On the old greens, watch for natural bodies of water, the ocean, or mountains. It'll break towards the water, and it'll break away from the mountains. When you get on new golf courses, don't get fooled, because that putt could go towards the mountain and away from the water. I hope this helps you in the future in reading greens. Now let's get back over to our little group, okay? Anyone have any questions on reading greens?
Lee, I have a question.
Sure.
How can I adjust for the different textures on the on grass on the different greens from one course to another?
Well, the first thing that you have to do is you have to find out what type of grass, in other words, that particular golf course has on it. And you can do that by asking the golf professional. If you're playing a strange golf course, very easy to go in and say, what kind of greens do you have here? And this is why we cover the different types of grasses that we have. Because if that pro says, well, this is 328, it's a tiff, then you know exactly which way the grain is going to go. It'll influence the second shots also, because if the second shots you're hitting west, it's going to hit on the blade of the Bermuda grass, and the ball's not going to check as fast. And if you're hitting it east, it's going to check much, much quicker. The other way, too, is don't avoid that putting green. Go to that putting green and try to hit a few putts, long ones and short ones, and try to get a feel. Any other questions?
Yes, Lee, I didn't quite understand when you were saying about the ball breaking toward or away from a lake or the ocean.
Well, everything has to do with the maturity of the golf course. How old is the golf course? Is the golf course new? You can get right on the ocean, build a brand new golf course, and the ball will not break towards the water, and people don't seem to understand that. The one thing that you have to remember about golf courses that have been built for many, many years, like a Pebble Beach or a Torrey Pines, is that the erosion has moved those greens towards the water, so the ball breaks towards the water. All new golf courses generally will break away from low spots. They'll break away from the water, because if that golf course, as it gets older and it matures, it's going to lean that way, because that's the way the water is going to flow. So all the new courses will have mounds build up on the water side. So you can find new golf courses, and that ball will break away from the water. Same thing in the desert. If you get in a mountain area, they will build the high side of that green, in other words, away from the mountain. So you could play a new golf course in a mountain area to where it would break towards the water. Now you go to the east coast of Florida, and that ball necessarily will not break towards the Atlantic Ocean, simply because of the Bermuda grass there. It'll only because of the grain. Plus, Florida, I mean, what's the highest point? 40 feet above sea level, so it really doesn't drain that much. But you have to be very careful with how old the golf course is that you're playing, yes. Okay, we're going to be right back, and we're going to go through the putters, the different types of putters, and then we're going to work on a very important part of putting, is the grip, okay? Okay, is this the way you guys do?
No, I don't think so.
Maybe this way. No, maybe it's this way. Now, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to putt it this way. That way I can't shank it.
He made it anyway.
No, I'll tell you what. I hope I never have to go to one of these putters. Look at here. Now, this is actually the way that you do it right here. And if you don't have a good time with it, really doesn't make that much difference, does it? But if you can't putt with one of these, you could always go home and rake your leaves. When you talk about putters, I want you to look at this. I want you to look at this. You think this looks like your garage, doesn't it? Huh? I guarantee you, you've got probably just as many putters that you see displayed here today. I'm telling you, we have got center shafted putters, we've got mallet head putters, we've got heel to toe weighted putters, we've got long putters, we've got short putters, we've got putters with round grips, with pistol grips, with flat grips. I mean, they're made out of copper, they're made out of steel, they're made out of wood. The question has always been, what is the best putter for me? Why do they make so many different types of putters? Is one putter better than the other? I don't really think so. I think the secret here is eye-hand coordination, being able to get a putter and put it down on the green, and being able to line that putter up to your intended line. I don't think one putter is better than the other. I think it's all self-preference. But you're always looking for that little edge. You're always looking for a putter that's going to make those putts for you. They haven't developed that yet. Energizers have not made that yet. It's not battery operated. I'm looking for the one that you can put down and speak to it and say, okay, hit it now. And the ball takes off and you make all putts. But I mean, how many putters do you have? Doc, how many do you have in your garage?
Over a dozen.
How many do you have?
I got 6 or 8.
You see, everyone is looking for that little secret when it comes to putting. And the secret to good putting is technique. It's having the right grip and the right attitude as far as putting is concerned. Confidence. Now, they've developed these putters to where now they have what we call a heel to toe weight. What does a heel to toe weight mean? What does it do for you? Well, my opinion is it gives you a bigger sweet spot. Simply because, as you can see here, the cavity is completely out and all the weight is on the toe and on the heel. And a lot of people always ask the question about putters, well, should a putter be stiff shaft or should it have a whippy shaft? I'm not really into what type of shaft that I should have. I like a stiff shafted putter because these greens are so fast now that you can't really have anything giving when it comes to hitting a putt. You know, one of the reasons that most people have so many putters, as we said a moment ago, is you're looking for that little secret. And isn't it funny when you buy a new putter and you putt great with it for about 2 weeks and then you start putting poorly with it again? We have an old saying, it's getting to know you. You see? You can have the greatest stroke in the world, you can have the greatest feel in the world, and you can read greens as good as anybody in the world, but if you don't have a good grip, you're going to miss a lot of putts, and especially short ones. Nobody's expected to make the long ones, so you're going to miss a lot of short putts. And the reason for it is the grips. Now, what is the best grip when it comes to putting? How do you put your hands on a putter? Really, it doesn't make that much difference. Because I can name you a tremendous amount of golf professionals over the last 30 years that have won a lot of major championships with different grips. The one common thing that these players have is where is the left hand facing. That is what's important. Because to be a good putter, you have to have the back of the left hand square with the blade of the club. Now, let me show you what I'm talking about here. You will notice that the back of the left hand now is square with the face of this putter. You see this? Right here. If you get that grip correctly and you look down at your left hand, you should be able to see the first knuckle of the left hand. Now let me do it again. So you've got to be able to see the first knuckle on your left hand here. Then you put the right hand underneath. You notice the palm of your hand on the first finger. This is what we call a reverse overlap. First finger of the left hand is on top of the 2 fingers on the right hand. That is the grip that you want to work on. That is a natural way to hold your hand. When you stand up straight and you drop your left hand to the side of your body and you look down at it, you will be able to see your left knuckle. In other words, I don't care if somebody twists your arm or whatever. When you drop it, you'll be able to see the first knuckle. That's why when you put it on that putter, you should be able to see that first knuckle. Now, this is what we call a very square left hand. Now, if you're not able to do that, and you say, I have been putting my entire life with my left hand underneath, I can't see any knuckles on the left hand. My back of my left hand is working here, back behind me. Okay, to compensate for that hand being in a weak position, as we're talking about here, then we're going to have to make the right hand strong where we can't see a knuckle on the right hand. You see, because now one complements the other one. The one thing that you have to be very careful with on a grip is that if you have what we call a square grip here and a strong grip with the right hand, you're going to pull all your putts. And you're going to pull them simply because you have a strong left grip and you have a strong right grip. And two strongs are not going to make a right. Believe me, they won't make a right. You will hook every putt. The same thing will happen to you is if you can't see a knuckle on the left hand. Say your left hand is what we call weak. It's underneath, and it's the back of the left hand is pointing here, and the blade is going towards your intended line. And your right hand now is weak also. So now you can see the knuckle on your right hand, but you can't see the knuckle on your left hand. Now this is what we're talking about, a weak grip. Weak left hand, weak right hand. Now what's going to happen to you? When you stroke that short putt, those hands are going to want to come back to their natural position, and you're going to miss everything to the right. So when you finish playing every round of golf, and you evaluate every short putt that you had, and you figure out how many short putts you missed, where and what side did you miss the majority of the putts? Did you miss them to the left, or did you miss them to the right? And chances are, if you missed them to the right, you got two weak grips. If you missed them to the left, you've got two strong grips. So you've got to find the happy medium as far as the grip is concerned. But a good reference is to start with that left hand. Make sure that you can see the knuckle on your left hand. It's very, very important when it comes to a grip. Any question?
Is your grip tight, medium, or loose?
Well, I hold the putter a little firmer than I do the other clubs. In other words, when I hit a golf shot, I'm looking for a lot of arc. If I choke that club to death, I end up breaking too quickly going back. But the putter, yes, I like to have it, I guess about medium. Yeah, and the reason I want it about medium is because if I mishit the sweet spot, which we all do many, many times, if I'm to the toe or to the heel, I don't want to pull or push the putt. If you have that putter too loose in your hands, you're going to end up going too far away from it, decelerating at the ball, and if you don't catch it in the dead center of that putter, you're going to miss that short putt. So, yeah, I would hold it. I'd put a little power on it. Yeah, hold it pretty firm. Question? Yes.
Lee, every time I seem to putt on the short putts, I move my body, and something happens, I can't stay still in my body. What do we do about that?
Well, that's number one. That's common. You know where that comes from, Doc? And it probably happens to you all the time. That comes from wishing. Hey? That comes from wishing. That comes from taking that little sharp putt and you go, oh no, I missed it again. Hey? That comes from wishing. You understand what I'm saying? The greatest way to train yourself not to move, number one, there's many ways, but number one is to listen for the putt to go in. In other words, if you have a 6, 8-footer, 30-footer, makes no difference. Concentrate on that golf ball and concentrate on that stroke and stroke it and wait until the ball is gone and it's gone 3, 4 feet, or if it's a short putt, listen for it to go in. You'll be surprised how this will keep you from moving. Now, if you can't get out of it doing that, you understand what happens to you. If you move on the ball, what happens is you rock on it. Your head rocks on it. One of the greatest practice, if you want to practice on the putting green and you want to practice not moving, try to move your head backwards when you hit the putt. Let me show you just in a couple of little ones right here what I'm talking about here. I'm going to demonstrate what Doc was asking here about movement. Watch my head here. Most people take the putter back, and as they hit it, you see that? You see how the head, it almost rocked on you. What happens now is this elbow gets out, and the shoulder gets on top, and you're not going to hit a good putt. You're not going to hit a good putt whatsoever. You're going to make some, but not many. If you're moving and can't get out of it, try to get yourself, as the putter is going forward, see if you can get your head to move backwards. You see that? It won't move backwards. You think it's moving backwards, but it won't move backwards. What's happened here is that it's quit moving completely. So a good habit to get into is to take it and go forward and back. You see that? Forward and back. And you're moving on it. Another way, too, to catch yourself, if you're on the putting green alone and you want to work on not moving on the putt, take another club with you, okay? And as you get ready to putt it, put that putter just against your leg here. You see that? And by having that putter on the leg, you will never move a muscle because it'll fall, you see, if it moves. I remember a friend of mine one time designed a deal on top of your head, so if your head moved, it beeped. Okay? We're going to take a break now. We're going to be back in a moment. Well, now that we've talked about the different types of grips and the different types of putters, I didn't forget you. I'm going to show you what the basic setup is all about. I'm going to show you where the weight distribution should be, where the ball position should be, and where the elbow and shoulders should be. So first of all, I want to start with ball position. Where do you position the ball in your stance when you putt? Now, you have to keep in mind here that I'm talking about position on a flat surface. Now, this is not breaking to the right or breaking to the left. This is not uphill. This is not downhill. We're talking about a flat surface. Now, the setup is the ball position, my opinion, should always be just inside your left heel. You should try to keep your feet square to your intended line. It should be parallel with the line that you're trying to hit this putt on. You should have your knees flexed a little bit. You should always flex the knees just a little bit to have a little tension in your thighs here. Now, once you've established the ball position and you have flexed the knees a little bit, what about weight distribution? I know some of you are probably putting with too much weight on the right side and you're leaning over towards the right side. Some of you are standing with the same amount of weight on both feet. I like to lean over to the left just a little bit. I like a foundation. I want to keep that house up. I don't want that roof to cave in on me. So I want to get over on the left side. Maybe a 70-30 or a 60-40. It's just a self-preference, what you like. So once you've put that ball in that position, make sure that this elbow, the right elbow, is not floating around on you. Make sure that elbow is tucked in to the side. This will help you in a lot of ways. One, it'll reduce the backswing, which will give you good acceleration through the ball. Two, it'll keep you from picking that putter up. Get that elbow in to the side. The other is make sure that this left shoulder is high. You're holding the roof of the house up. Don't putt with a low left shoulder. If you're stroking this ball with a low left shoulder, you're going to pick the putter up. The putter's going to go up in the air, and you're going to chop down on the ball. Get that left shoulder up. Let me hit a putt for you here. Shoulder high, weight on the left-hand side, elbow in. Push it back and release it. Very, very, very easy to do. Now, again, we're talking about basic setup here. Again, exactly the same thing. Notice how the left shoulder is up. Let me show you what happens to you if you have a low left shoulder. If that left shoulder is here, when you push the putter back, again, that putter will go too high. So you must have some tension in this left shoulder. It's very, very important. By having the weight over on the left side, you're going to keep from moving, as we covered a little bit before about moving. So get on the left side, push the putter back, and release it. I got to find a tournament to play in. The way I'm putting this thing. That is a basic setup. That is on a flat putt. Now, the big problem with most people is that they use that particular stance and setup for all putts. And we're going to get into the breaking putts in just a moment. Does anyone have any questions on the setup?
Lee, when I'm lining up my putt, where do I place the blade? Is it the heel, the middle, or the toe?
Well, I prefer putting it in the middle of the putter. Most putters have lines or a dot on top. That's the sweet spot. That's where you want to hit that putt. Forget about that heel or that toe. Put it in the middle of that putter, and you're going to make a lot of how to putt different types of putts. We're going to start with a straight putt, then we're going to go to a downhill putt, how to putt uphill putts. We're going to work on putts from right to left and left to right. But the most difficult putt to make is a straight one. And you know why? Because you can't make a mistake on it. If that putt is straight, that ball has to be hit almost perfect. Now, if you have a breaking putt, you can always make a mistake on it, because who says that you read it right? I tell you, you think about that for a second. You can say, well, it's a little outside the right or a little outside the left, and you push it and you pull it, you read it wrong and you made the putt. But a straight putt is very difficult to make because you can't make the mistake on it. Now, what we try and do on a straight putt, naturally, is we try to get into this putt with the putter on the right line. Now, if some people putt what they call looking at the ball, looking at the hole, and trying to feel the break. What I try to do on a straight putt is try to pick spots. As I'm standing behind the ball and I'm lining this putt up, I'm trying to look for little spots in the green. It's almost like bowling. You know, you're always trying to bowl the ball over the first mark or the second or the third mark. It's the same thing in a straight putt. Is try to pick a little spot about 6 inches in front of the ball. Take the putter, never look up at the hole. Take the putter and put the putter in first, making sure that the putter is dead square with that little spot that you want to go over. Take your stance now and get very, very comfortable. The most important thing about this stroke is not to move on it. Don't look up to see if this ball is on line. Take your stroke and keep your head down. Very important that you do that. So if you're having trouble on these little straight putts, chances are you're moving on it, you're trying to watch the ball go into the hole, and you're not spot putting. Okay? You've got to spot putt on a straight putt. One more time, so you don't miss this. I try to draw a straight line to the middle of the hole. Now, it's very difficult to square that putter up from the ball to the hole and keep it in a straight line. So what I try and do is pick out some little marks in front. For instance, this little mark here is right on my line. So what I try and do now is square my putter over that little dot and just pull the trigger. The downhill putt. How to hit a downhill putt. Do you hit it on the toe of the putter? Do you hit it on the heel of the putter? Do you hold the putter very weak in your hand? Do you hold it very tight in your hands? Do you hit it with the left hand? Do you hit it with the right hand? I'm telling you, the first thing that you do on a downhill putt is you stand behind the putt and you look at that downhill putt. You try and see where the top of the hill is and where the ball is going to go down. You have to try and get a feel of the top of the hill. That's as hard as you want to hit it, because the ball now is going to trickle all the way down by itself, you see. So you put the ball in the center of your putter. Forget that business of putting it on the toe, putting it on the heel, holding it tight, or holding it weak. You've got to hold a putter pretty firm in your hands. Anyway, the thing that you're trying to avoid here on a downhill putt is taking a practice swing. You don't want to take a practice swing, because by standing behind it, you have got the line, the intended line, recorded in your mind. So you want to try and grip that putter before you ever get up to a downhill putt. Walk up to it, again putting the putter in first. Don't milk the putter. Don't turn it loose. Keep the same pressure on your hands that you walked in there with. Now, an uphill putt is very difficult for the average player, and the professional too. And the reason for this is because they can never hit it hard enough to get up the hill. People tend to put the ball too far forward in their feet, and the position of the ball is too far forward. You must put the ball back in your stance. Now, the one thing that you have to remember about putting uphill is you want to try and strike the ball as the putter is coming down. Never hit up on a long putt. If you hit up on a long putt, you make the ball jump and it starts hopping. And if the ball starts hopping, then the ball is never going to get to the hole. It's going to run into the hill and it's going to stop. So think about the letter U. You're facing that U is on the ground. Now, where do you catch the ball? Do you catch the ball at the end of the U, at the middle of the U, or at the beginning of the U? I like to catch it about in the middle. So I put the ball back in my stance just a little bit. I hold the putter a little bit tighter than I would on the downhill. As a matter of fact, I squeeze the putter very, very tight. Taking the putter back again short. Don't take the putter back away from the ball so far that you're going to have to decelerate coming through it. Making sure that you strike this putt on the way down. Then you're going to have a chance of getting that putt to the hole. Watch this one. Right to left breaker. Now there's a putt that's got a tremendous amount of break in it. If you're having a lot of trouble with that particular putt, chances are you're missing it over to the left. And the reason for it is because you've probably got the ball too far forward. By having the ball too far forward, this means that when you're striking this ball, the putter is closing too early. With the ball being forward, you can't accelerate the putter out on your intended line. What you want to do here is square up to your intended line, which will be way to the right of the target, and then move your feet forward. This enables the ball to move back into your stance, almost to the right foot. This keeps the putter square and open as it strikes the ball. Now let me show you. Move it back into your stance. This will give you some acceleration. Ball starts out way to the right, comes to the left. Ooh! Let me show you again. You're not making this putt. Chances are you've got the ball too far forward. Take your position. Get ready to hit this putt and move forward with your feet about 3 inches. This will put the ball deeper into your stance. By having the ball deeper into your stance, you're giving the putter more of a chance to stay on line before it turns on you. Here, being able to stand there, hit it, the ball is going to go out on the break and take the break. Now, we're going to try a left to right breaking putt. Watch this one. That's got a little break to it, hasn't it? Hasn't stopped yet, has it? Here it comes. You know, most golfers hate left to right breaking putts. That's the ones they miss the most. And the reason for it is because they never get the ball on their intended line. Oh, they know it's going to break from left to right, and they know it's going to go 6 inches, a foot, 2, 3 feet, but they can never start the ball over on that line. A couple of little tips that may help you on this. One is you always want the ball forward. Try to play it off your left toe. Now, the reason for this is by having the ball so far forward that you're going to almost close the blade, hinge it, because you just can't get out there to get it. The other thing that will help you, besides putting the ball forward, get your hands as far forward as possible. Now, you're not going to push this putt if you do this. Now, make sure when you push those hands forward that the blade of that putter is square to your intended line. So push them forward and make sure that the blade of the putter stays square. By having your hands forward and the ball forward, the putter will close for you. The ball will start out on its intended line and it will break to the right. And now we're going to talk about a double breaker. You probably just fell off your couch laughing. You said, man, I can't make one that just breaks one way, and he's talking about a double breaker. Well, double breakers can be quite easy if you think about them. Remember, when you get a double breaker, just concentrate up by the cup. What is the last few feet going to do on this putt? Don't worry about the first break. Chances are that putt's going to have so much speed when it takes off that it's only going to take about 1/3 of the first break, and then it'll take 100% of the second one. Let me demonstrate this to you. I have a putt here that should start out a little bit from left to right, and then it should come back from right to left. Now you notice it didn't take a lot of the first break. Now here it comes back to the left again. Hit it a little bit too hard, but that's what you have to concentrate on a double breaker. Anyone have any questions on putting, on a certain type of putt? Yes.
I'd like to know if you spot putt when you're playing a break, either right to left or left to right.
Oh yes, you can spot putt on any Any putt. It doesn't make any difference what kind of putt it is. I like the spot putt because it's very easy for me to line up a putter 6 inches away from the ball than it is on a 30-footer, and I'm looking at the hole, looking at the ball, looking at the hole, looking at the ball. Yes, I like the spot putt as much as possible. But it's very important on what I was talking about on a left to right breaking putt, because that's the most common that people miss. Yeah. Any other question?
Lee, I've been having trouble with the yips lately. What can I do about it?
Well, yips, whew. Yips, you get to jumping around a little bit. Too much caffeine, believe me. That's what it is, too much caffeine. No, you know, that's a common thing with the yips. And you know, that comes from confidence. If you don't think you can putt, you're going to end up with the yips. And there's a lot of ways to get out of the yips. You know, they've got the big long putter. That's why they've gone to the big 52-inch putters, because people have had the yips. But there's a couple of things that you can have. One great thing and great way of getting out of the yips is try practicing putting without grounding your club. In other words, pretend that you're in a bunker. And practice putting by having the putter up above the ball and just stroking it. What this gives you is this gives you a lot of tension in your arms. The problem with the yips is people put the putter behind the ball and they relax it there, and then all of a sudden it's a shock when they have to pick it up and take it away. You understand? That's one way of getting out of the yips. The other way of getting out of the yips is I did a tip a few years ago about taking a wash rag. If you were washing your clothes and you had to wring the water out of your clothes, how would you do it? In other words, you're going to wring them out this way. It's a very good way of doing it. Putting your hands on the putter with palms up, face up at you, just like this. Pretend that this grip is got a lot of water in it, and you want to wring this out to get the water out. So what would you do? If this was a rag, you would go this way, wouldn't you? You'd go that way. Wring it out and hold it. You understand? And hold it. Keep that pressure just like you're getting the water out of it, and you will be surprised how smooth that stroke will be. And I think this is a couple of ways of getting you out of the yips. Yeah. Any other questions?
What's the best way for me to go home and practice putting?
You can go to my house right now in my living room. There'll be 3 or 4 putters up against the wall. There'll be golf balls on the floor. I hit putts right on the carpet. It doesn't make any difference if it's a thick carpet or a slick carpet or what. You can practice in the living room. That's the great thing about putting. You can do it in the office, you can do it in a hotel, you can do it at home. You understand? I mean, you always have time to hit a few putts. Work on a short stroke, Doc. You understand? Work on a short stroke. The shorter you can get the backswing, the more acceleration you're going to have through the ball, and you'll make more putts. Work on the ball position. Work on the weight distribution. Try to work on this. And pretend that this ball breaks right to left or left to right, and work on putting the hands forward on a left to right breaker, and work on putting the ball deeper on a right to left breaker. I mean, there's a lot of things that you can do in the living room. The problem is that people avoid these things. They don't want to do them. They go out on the golf course and they said, oh, I'll make one here and I'll make one there, and they're frustrated when they come in. They hit the ball beautifully, and then they end up having 36, 38, 40 putts, and it just kills them. You see, it just kills them. Any other question?
Lee, I've been using the same lightweight putter for about 15 years. Now that I'm playing on courses that have very large greens, I'm having trouble getting the ball to the hole when I have a long putt. Should I be using a heavier putter?
Well, if you like that particular putter, and like my mother-in-law putts with a putter that she's been putting with for 40 years. She's never changed it, okay? If you like the putter, and most people like the old putter that they putted with, they can line up with it. You can put a little weight on it. They have strips of lead tape, and all you have to do is put them on the back of the putter and just try it. Just see if that is going to help you. If that doesn't help you, then you may want to purchase another putter and possibly get one that's a little bit heavier or heel to toe weighted or what have you. But that's the good thing about that lead weights that you can put on the back of golf clubs. We all have it. Without lead tape, we couldn't play.